Thanks for joining us, everyone. This is the workshop hosted by Oribi called How to 10x Your Website Conversion Rate Optimization Skills. So I think we're ready to begin, and let's take it away. So my name is Avi. I'm a conversion expert here at Oribi, and here are my goals for the workshop. First of all, if you wouldn't mind keeping yourselves on mute for the remainder of the workshop, there'll be time for questions. If you have any questions throughout the course of the workshop, please feel free to put them in the chat. I have an assistant standing by who's gathering all the questions and is going to put all the most common questions and the most relevant ones, and we're going to address them at the end. So feel free to submit your questions that way. Okay, here are our goals for the workshop. By the end of this conversion rate optimization workshop, you will understand what CRO is and why doing it correctly will have an enormous impact on your business, help you optimize your ad spend, your funnel performance all throughout your business, and make sure that things are operating smoothly and that you're making the improvements that need to be made. Number two, you're going to come away with this workshop armed with a very scientific, methodical approach to how to come to CRO on your website. It's going to be very, very carefully laid out. There's actually a template we've designed that we're going to share with you. And that is the third goal. You'll have access to our template, which will help you approach your CRO process. So here's the agenda. Number one, we're going to talk about CRO and why it's so impactful for your business. Number two, we're going to present our use case. We actually have a relevant use case. It's not a demo. It's a real use case that we're going to approach together throughout this workshop. We're going to strategize. We're going to implement some of our own methods for CRO. And we're going to show that we're going to do that together. Number three, we're going to optimize the funnel using our in-house method, again, with a template that we're going to share with you. Number four, we're going to talk about advanced CRO, kind of how to kick it into high gear. And then finally, we'll address the Q&A. A little bit about me. My name is Avi Altschuler. I'm a conversion expert here at Oribi. I've helped hundreds of companies go through their CRO process. I've seen more funnels than I care to admit. And that's a little bit about me. A little bit about Oribi. Oribi is an integrated codeless analytics solution. We're helping people understand their marketing data and make data-driven decisions about their paid campaigns and their marketing and their CRO. We've collected over 3 billion events, 187 million users tracked, over 22,000 funnels analyzed, over $750 million in revenue that people have analyzed using the Oribi marketing dashboard. We're backed by some of the top VCs in the space, and we're used by massive enterprise companies and small mom and pop shops alike, all really big fans of Oribi's codeless and easy to understand marketing analytics dashboard. So that's a little bit about us. So let's dig in. What is CRO? Now, there are a lot of definitions to CRO. You might have heard many of them. So I want to define the way we're going to be using the term CRO for the remainder of this workshop. Okay, here's what CRO is not in terms of our workshop. We are not talking about getting better traffic to your site. That's not what we're talking about. That is usually referred to as paid acquisition. So we're going to talk about paid acquisition also a little bit, but for the most part, we're talking about conversion rate optimization. Conversion rate optimization for the purposes of this workshop is taking the existing traffic that we have on our site, right? Not increasing traffic, not improving top of the funnel traffic quality, but taking the traffic we already have and getting more conversions out of it, helping those people flow through our funnel more naturally. That's what we mean when we talk about conversion rate optimization. We take existing traffic and we help it convert. Okay? So why is CRO so important? This is an absolutely critical step at the beginning of our workshop for us to go through. Let's take this example that we've prepared here. So site.com has 15,000 monthly visitors and their conversion rate is at 1%, right? 1% of their visitors convert. Their average revenue per conversion is $100. So they have two paths open to them from there. Let's look at option one. Option one would be the paid acquisition approach, increasing top of the funnel traffic. So we have 15,000 monthly visitors and we use ads, we increase our marketing spend to increase our overall site traffic from 15K to 30K. Great. So let's follow this example all the way through. We have a conversion rate of 1%. Revenue per conversion is $100. So 1%, that means that we have 300 conversions, which reflects a total revenue of $30,000. Now, because we doubled our site traffic and we spent an average of $1 per click on average, that means that we spent $15,000 doubling our traffic. So since we made $30,000, but spent $15,000 on getting that double in traffic, we come out with a net profit of $15,000. And now you might say to me, great, 15K in profit. That sounds awesome. Let's scale that. Hold on a moment. Let's look at the CRO method. Instead of increasing traffic with paid acquisition, let's talk about CRO for a moment. Let's stick with our existing 15,000 monthly visitors, right? We've not increased our traffic at all. We are only engaging in CRO in this model. And instead, by optimizing our funnel and engaging in CRO in a meaningful way, we actually increase our conversion rate from 1% to 1.5%. It's a totally doable, totally reasonable goal. Okay, we increase our conversion rate from 1 to 1.5%. Now, the revenue per conversion stays the same at $100. Our total conversions, right? We don't have as many conversions as in option 1, which got us 300. We only have 225 conversions, which reflects a total revenue of $22,500. But here's the kicker. There was no additional cost, right? Whereas in option 1, to increase our traffic, to double our traffic, we spent $15,000 on top of our already existing marketing spend. In the CRO model, we did not spend another dollar on top of our existing marketing spend. That reflects a net profit of $22,500. This is incredible. Think about this. Fewer conversions, less traffic, more end of day profit because we have optimized our funnel and allowed people to flow through more effectively. Now, I want to clarify something. I am not saying that you should never increase your paid acquisition channels. That's not at all what I'm saying. There's obviously a time and a place to scale and to increase marketing budget and to bring in more paid traffic to your site. What I'm saying is it's important to think about CRO on its own. And it's important to optimize your funnel flow very carefully before you increase that traffic so that when the traffic comes, it's optimizing at the most optimal, it's converting at the most optimized level, and you're getting the most conversions you could out of the traffic that you're getting. So it's important to prioritize CRO before you immediately turn to scaling your marketing budget and bringing more paid traffic. It's critical to make sure that your conversion rates are optimized and that you're engaging in CRO in a meaningful way and you're looking at your funnels very carefully. So that is a very important point to begin with. So I hope this was clear why we take CRO so seriously here at Oribi. And let's move on. Now, it's important to realize something. We just made a distinction between conversion rate optimization and paid acquisition. But what's important to understand is that actually engaging in CRO meaningfully can actually impact acquisition as well, okay? Because the more conversions you have in terms of your traffic count, the more high quality conversion data you have to feed your lookalike audiences, which means you have better data to feed back to your ad platforms like Google and Facebook. You have more money in your pocket at the end of the day to reinvest in those ad platforms, netting you more growth, higher acquisition, and your conversion rates are optimized also. Okay, so it's important to realize that CRO actually does help with acquisition as well. All right, let's move on. Now we're going to get into our use case. So we actually have one of the employees here at Oribi actually has a little bit of a side project helping autistic adults get work from home jobs. It's a really cool project, and we're going to use that as our use case for the purposes of this workshop. So in this use case, we're going to treat a conversion as a membership, which is the checkout event on the site. Okay, great. Now, here is our CRO framework. We call it the IASTL framework, which refers to the acronym of the different steps in the process. The reason we have this process visualized as a circle is because it's an iterative process, which means you do it, rinse and repeat. It's not something you do once and say, oh, hey, my funnel's now optimized, we're good to go. No, we are always improving. We are always looking for how we can help guide people through the funnel more effectively, continuously remove roadblocks, and guide them in to the conversion. So step one is to identify and visualize the main funnel. That might seem obvious. Most of us know the funnel of our business, of how we bring people from top of the funnel down to a conversion at the bottom, but still, we're gonna talk about it. Step two, analyze the drop-offs. Where is the friction point in my funnel? Where are the obstacles that my website users are encountering on their path towards conversion? Number three, we start making assumptions. Now, assumptions can come from a variety of places. We might just have intuition. We might think to ourselves, oh, hey, this could be why people are dropping off at this phase. But it could also come from a data-driven approach. We could also see data that people are encountering certain aspects of our site that is driving them away from moving through the funnel. It's very, very possible. So a combination of intuition and data might lead us to our assumptions as to why people are dropping off. Number four, we come up with a hypothetical solution. We hypothesize. This is a very scientific approach, right? We notice a problem, we hypothesize a solution, and then we implement a rigorous test to see if we were correct. So we hypothesize what might be the solution to this assumption of why people might be dropping off, right? And it's now very theoretical. We're going to get into a very practical use case, so don't worry. We come up with solutions. 5, we implement the test. And now it's very important when we implement tests that we implement one test at a time. Because we're trying to do things from a data-driven scientific perspective, it's very important that we control for the variable. We don't want to implement 5 tests at once, because then let's say, even in a best case scenario, we tested 5 variables at once and our funnel gets way better. So what? We have no idea which one of our tests actually moved the needle. And we haven't really learned anything. We don't know now what works and what doesn't work. It could be any one of these 5 things. So that's why we test one thing at a time. And that way we can apply the learnings, which is the 6th step of the iterative process. We can apply the learnings back into our next go around the CRO process. So I hope that's clear. Again, feel free to write any questions in the chat. We're going to address all questions at the end. So if anything's unclear, please let us know in the chat. All right, let's move on. Step 1 of the process of conversion rate optimization, we have identify and visualize the main funnel. So this is something we can do with Oribi very easily, because Oribi, I've got some tabs open here that will help me. Oribi's got a wonderful feature called the Visitor Journeys Aggregator. And the way this feature works is that essentially you define an end goal right here. So for us, we've done the checkout event. And what Oribi will do is it will define for us all possible paths through our website in descending order of frequency through our website to ultimate conversion. So what we see here is, other than people who converted immediately, this is the most common funnel. People come from this blog post called 32 Remote Jobs for People with Autism, then to the homepage, then to conversion. That's our most common funnel. So that's step 1 of the iterative process. We've now identified and visualized the main funnel. We can visualize the funnel right here in Oribi. This is the exact same funnel built right here for us, right? The visit to the 32 remote jobs, from there to the homepage, from there to checkout. That's the funnel we're going to be working with. And we can go through it together also, because I've got the funnel open here. We'll do it together just for a moment so that we can all identify and visualize the funnel together. So here we are at the blog post for Spectrums, 32 remote work from home jobs for autistic people. Now, this blog post gets a ton of traffic. It actually ranks #1 on Google for people Googling work from home jobs for autistic adults. So the flow is as follows. People read here, they take a quiz, telling them about their personality. They get a score, and here's the call to action right here. Get qualified and apply to work from home jobs, okay? This takes them to the homepage. So that's the flow that we're looking at here in the funnel, right? Visit to the 32 remote jobs page, from there to the homepage, and from there, a checkout event. Now, let's move on to the 2nd step of the process, and you'll see how it goes from there. Number 2, we've now visualized the funnel. I hope that's clear. Some other funnel examples, if you'd like. Obviously, we all have different funnels. So, sometimes it's going to be a cart abandonment funnel for an e-commerce site, or it's going to be, a funnel for a SaaS platform that's trying to get new leads, whatever it is. Step 2, let's analyze drop-offs and decide where we want to focus our CRO efforts. So back in our funnel, we see that from the organic visitors who made it to the blog post, 19% go on and click that call to action, bringing them to the homepage. From there, we have basically a 1 in 3 shot of getting them to check out. So because this is the weakest step in the funnel, relatively speaking, this is where we're going to focus our CRO efforts for the purposes of this workshop. Okay, so that's step 2. Analyze the drop-offs, decide where to focus. This is very important. It might seem trivial, but you've got to be able to prioritize where you're going to focus your efforts in terms of optimizing your funnel. So we've done that. We've decided where we want to focus. It's important to realize also there's an inverse proportionality between the funnel depth and intent of the user. And what I mean by that is we have the most amount of users at the top of the funnel. And as people funnel off and leave our funnel, they get more and more intent in terms of conversion. So that's also very important to understand how different parts of the funnel reflect different attitude and psychology of users. So that's also very important. So now let's move on to number 3. Let's make some assumptions as to why people drop off. And we can do this very methodically. I have here the template for our CRO, which we're obviously going to share with you afterwards. So you can walk away with some concrete tools for the CRO for your business. So let's make some assumptions as to why people might not click this call to action. And we have a few here, right here. So here's the funnel optimization framework. So we did the first couple steps, right? We identified our funnel, which we have a screenshot right here. This is the funnel that we're working with. Step 2 was the analysis of that funnel and deciding where we're going to optimize, which was right here. Assumptions. This is where we're up to. Let's make some really insightful assumptions as to why we think people might be dropping off before clicking that call to action. So, assumption number 1, the call to action is not aimed enough at results. It's not result oriented enough, and therefore it's not appealing. That's assumption number 1. So, what's the call to action? Get qualified and apply to work from home jobs. Okay, maybe that's not punchy enough. Maybe that doesn't speak to the pain point of the person who's trying to get a job here. They want to know that they're going to get a job. They don't want to get qualified. They want work. So perhaps we want a little bit of a more punchy call to action. That's a reasonable assumption, right? That makes a lot of sense given what we're working with here. So that's assumption number 1. Assumption number 2, perhaps there's not enough social proof to get people motivated enough to click that call to action. So perhaps we need to implement some more social proof. So those are our 2 assumptions. We've gone through the first 3 steps of CRO based on this framework, right? We visualized our funnel, we analyzed it and decided where we're going to optimize that first step, people who come to the blog post and who are not clicking that call to action, bringing them back to the homepage. We've made some creative and data-driven assumptions as to why people are dropping off, right? Perhaps it's because our CTA isn't punchy enough. Perhaps it's because there's no social proof. So that was number 3. We've built some assumptions. Moving on, let's hypothesize some solutions. Now, here's where things get really interesting and very methodical. What you'll see is we built here a little table for how to hypothesize your solutions. It's very critical. So solution number 1 that we might think about. We hypothesized that people were falling off of our funnel because the CTA wasn't punchy enough. It wasn't enough oriented towards results. So maybe the solution might be to change the call to action to, instead of get qualified, we help autistic adults get work from home jobs. Learn how. Maybe that's a little punchier. Maybe that speaks more to the pain of the person coming to look for a work from home job. So that's hypothesis number 1 we're going to make. Now, this is critical. Why might it work? We've got to be very careful about this. We can't just spitball solutions. We've got to be very clear with our team and our business as to why we think the solution we're hypothesizing might work. By the way, I want to reiterate something. Even though we're dealing with one example here from our in-house use case, what's very important is that this framework can work for any funnel, any e-commerce funnel, conversion funnel, SaaS funnel, lead gen funnel. All we're doing here is trying to get into the heads of our users, trying to understand who they are, what they want, what it is we want them to do, and how to remove the obstacles in their path from doing what it is we want them to do. This process works. So we've hypothesized the solution. Why might this solution work? Critical step. Well, it's more result oriented. The problem that we thought of why people were dropping off is because it wasn't a results oriented CTA. So perhaps this might work because it's more focused on getting a job. Now, we also want to understand why it might not work. It could be that the results of our test might be negative. So we want to understand what are the possibilities for failure here. So it might not work because it doesn't really make a difference at the end of the day. And it could be that our hypothesis as to what the problem was mistaken. That might not be why people aren't clicking the CTA. It could just be they're not interested or they're just browsing. All of these are possibilities. So we want to hypothesize what the solution might be, why it might work, why it might not work. Okay. Now we had another solution, right? The other solution was that there wasn't enough social proof by the call to action to encourage people to take that next step forward. So the solution we've hypothesized here is we're going to add a video testimonial to the CTA. Now, why might that work? Well, there's a lot of data suggesting that video testimonials work really well. The video we're thinking about performed really well in our newsletter, and it feels more authentic than the written testimonial. So that's a reason why the video testimonial might actually influence an increase in conversions. Now, a reason why it might not work is because the video testimonial leads out to YouTube and they might get lost in a YouTube rabbit hole. It's happened to all of us. So we might not want people leaving our site. Now, here's a critical point in terms of how we go about implementing these tests, because we hypothesize two possible solutions to one problem. So we need to decide which one we're going to do first. As I mentioned before, controlling for the variable is imperative. We don't want to test too many things at once because otherwise we get lost in the results. So we implement one test. How do we decide which test to do? Well, we rank order each of our solutions by their possible impact, the complexity to implement the solution, and the confidence we have in the effectiveness of that solution. Once we rank all of them, you can do it 1 through 3, 1 through 5, it doesn't matter. That will help you prioritize which test you want to do first. If it has high impact, low complexity, and reasonable confidence, that's the one you want to test. Okay, so we've rank ordered our different solutions. We implemented the tests. By the way, these tests are 100% real. We are going to implement these tests that we hypothesized, and you're going to receive in the follow-up email the results from our test. So this is a very, very practical example. So moving on, we've hypothesized, we've come up with possible solutions, we've brainstormed as to why those solutions might work or might not work.
El histórico, ¿no? O sea, ¿cómo lo queremos representar? O sea, ¿qué nos imaginamos?
And we've hypothesized the solutions, and we're ready to move on. Step 5 in the CRO framework is actually implementing the test. We make the change, okay? And it's not just making the change. Let's go back to the template for a moment. Here's how the test looks. It's very, very methodical. We take a screenshot of our funnel before the test as our benchmark. This is where we're starting, okay? We want to bear in mind that we're focusing on the conversion rate on the place that we are focusing on, which is step 1 to step 2. We also want to keep an eye on the overall funnel conversion, right? Oribi always does that for us. Oribi will always show us in our funnels, what is the conversion rate from step A to step B? It's 19%, but also the overall funnel conversion rate. It could very well be that we optimize step A to step B, but we lost people in the overall funnel conversion. So we always want to keep an eye on that. So back to our framework, we take a screenshot of the funnel before the test. Here's where we were at. We take a screenshot of the website before the test was implemented. Here's the screenshot, right? Of our old CTA. Then we have a place for the screenshot of your site after the change, once the test was implemented, and then a place for the screenshot of your funnel after the change was implemented, right? So that way we can immediately see the results of our test very, very plainly drawn for us. Now, in Oribi, this becomes much easier because we can compare periods on the funnel and we can actually see results of any given optimization to our funnel right here in the dashboard. It becomes much easier. So that's step 5 of the CRO process, implementing the test. And once again, it's not just doing the test. Following the template keeps things very organized and very clear. as to what the variable you were testing for was. You've written down your hypothesis for solution, your reasonable expectations for the impact, and your confidence in that change. And then we see the results clear as day. Now, here we get to the final and most important step of the CRO framework. Learn. Now, this might sound trivial, but it's not. I'm not saying, and now you're smarter, so you've learned something. No. The learning that you have done in terms of the results of your tests is absolutely critical. Why? Because you have learned something not just about what optimizes a funnel, you've learned something about your customers. You've understood something about how they interact with your website, how the things that you do on your website influences their behavior through your funnel. So if I've learned something about the psychology of my users, for example, let's go back to the Spectrums account that we were talking about. Let's say we put in that video testimonial and that increases conversions. I've learned something amazing there. Not just that now I need to use video testimonials. I've learned that for every other conversion on my website, across every other blog page, increasing that personal touch and that contact with actual personal testimonials and video content actually helps people move through. I've learned something about the people who are coming to my site. And now the next time I go to optimize something on my site, I have a better basis for the assumptions that I make. I have more of an understanding of my users. Their psychology is clearer to me, and I will find my next time around the CRO framework to be much more natural, much more easy. The more I learn and implement back into my funnel, the easier it is to keep doing it. So following this framework is absolutely essential. Using Oribi makes it much easier, and that is the CRO framework that you're going to walk away with today. Now, CRO does not end there, and there are ways to kick CRO into high gear. And it's important to realize that not all traffic is created equal, right? Different traffic sources behave differently. I'm sure many of you noticed on your own businesses that users from organic search and users from TikTok and users from Instagram all behave very differently. So the ability to split your funnel by channel becomes absolutely imperative, so that not only are we optimizing on the website itself, but we're also making optimizations per channel and per campaign and per location and per platform, right? Being able to optimize across the vast slew of parameters that might identify separate kinds of users becomes imperative. And this is something Oribi can do without breaking the sweat. I'm happy to do this with each of you personally. You'll get a link to my calendar after this if you'd like to do some CRO on your website. Oribi has a free 7-day trial that you're welcome to use. Now, being able to split the funnel right here is what I was just telling you about. You can split the funnel by channel. You can split the funnel by ad campaign. All of these things are easy with a click of a button. So that's advanced CRO, and that's how Oribi can help with that. Now let's focus on the main takeaways of our session today. Number one, we saw how CRO is absolutely crucial, and we cannot just focus on increasing paid acquisition efforts. It's imperative to optimize the funnel before we start focusing on increasing paid acquisition. Number two, CRO is a scientific and methodical process. It's not something we can just fire from the hip. We need to use a very well-built and clearly thought out framework, which you're all going to receive in a follow-up email. Now, using this framework on an ongoing basis is the actual key to improving your conversion rate. Being able to engage in CRO methodically, formulaically, and constantly is the key to making sure that you're converting your traffic on a very good basis and increasing your funnel efficiency always. Number four, as I mentioned during the session, emphasizing the learning phase of the framework, being able to bring that awareness of your users and feeding that back into your next time around is absolutely imperative. It'll serve as a growth multiplier when you're trying to understand what tactics work and what don't. You'll be able to hypothesize much more effectively. And finally, traffic from different sources and different campaigns can behave differently. So performing CRO per channel and per campaign is really how to kick CRO into high gear. Now let's take a look at the chat and see what kind of questions there were. One moment. I see. So Erica asked, I'm launching my business. How does this benefit me right now? Or is this for when you're already operational? Exactly. That's a great question. So being able to optimize a funnel does assume that you have some kind of data running through the funnel now. We need to be able to have some data with which to compare our optimizations so that we know what optimizations worked and what didn't. Yeah, if you don't have traffic running through your site, it's going to be difficult to engage in CRO. So it's good to scale very carefully, little by little, start bringing in traffic, going for organic, maybe even a little bit of paid just as a test, and then start engaging in CRO from there. Now, the recording will be shared afterwards. I see that was also asked. Okay. Just one moment. All right, Matt asked, how do you go about identifying your funnel exactly? We're a SaaS platform with many, many conversion points. So it doesn't feel like we have one clear funnel. This has been a huge barrier for us. Great question, Matt. So as we saw in the beginning of the session, Oribi's Journeys Aggregator is exactly a tool designed for that specific problem. So we define an end goal. Here we have checkout. That's our end goal. That's our conversion point here. Oribi will actually identify for us what the possible funnels are and rank order them by commonality. That's exactly how we identify and visualize a funnel using Oribi's help. It will tell us how people are engaging with our website, what are the most common touch points along the path to conversion, and that helps us identify what the funnel is so that we can build it. Great question, Matt. Adrian asked, the biggest obstacle I find is getting some possible solutions implemented. Sometimes it's product changes requiring dev work. Sometimes it's an entire marketing campaign. What's the best way to demonstrate the value of the solution and actually get it done? So as you learn more about your product and as you engage more in CRO, you start to understand more and more about what the possible solutions are. So there's intuition involved, but there's also qualitative and quantitative data gathering that you need to do. And in terms of product changes requiring dev work, yeah, that's always going to be a pain point. But the beautiful thing about Oribi is that the event tracking is all codeless. So you don't have to worry about tagging events or anything like that. It's always going to be tracked automatically. All right, let's see if we have any more questions. Okay. Okay, so I think that's probably it for now. Feel free to ask us any more questions. If I see another question come through, I'll try to address it. Okay. There's a follow-up email that you're all going to receive. Number one, you're going to receive our template for conversion rate optimization, the IASTL template. You're all going to receive that. You're going to receive a recording of this workshop, totally free. It's going to come out to all of you. For those of you that had to jump early or who weren't able to make it, the recording is going to go out. And we're going to give you the results of the test that we did on the in-house use case. That was not just a demo. That was a real use case that we're going to do together. And we're going to send you the results of that test because I'm sure you're all interested in it. Now, if you would like, Oribi has a 7-day free trial. You can access it at oribi.io/signup, and you can schedule a tour with me to discuss your CRO, your business use case, and to see how Oribi can help skyrocket your business and help you in your conversion rate optimization efforts. You're going to receive a link to my calendar as well. If you would like to schedule that with me, you are all welcome to do so. It was lovely meeting you all. Thank you all for taking the time to join us here for this Oribi workshop, how to 10x your conversion rate optimization skills. I hope you found it meaningful and beneficial. And there's a survey that's going to go out, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks for joining me, everyone.